TokyoPop is a name that many fans of manga and anime will recognize as one of the first and biggest publishers of manga in the United States. Founded in 1997, the company would really hit its stride in 2002 with the introduction of 100% authentic manga. Oftentimes when manga would be translated into English, its artwork would be flipped in order to be more understandable to a Western audience who are used to reading from left to right instead of right to left as it was originally written and illustrated in. Not only did this allow the artwork to be published as it was originally drawn, but also meant they would have less issues with image distortion and thus had less work to do when publishing. This made it possible for TokyoPop to publish manga at a faster rate for a lower cost than any of its competitors. This edge in the market, along with the growing popularity of manga in the US, especially among girls and women who didn't always feel like the best represented by Western comics, meant TokyoPop was making money, and they were ready to invest that money. Mostly into themselves. What if instead of having to deal with artists and obtaining licenses and legalities and time zones and communication issues, the manga could just be created by TokyoPop itself? TokyoPop would test the waters of this in 2002 with the Rising Stars of Manga, an annual contest they would host where artists could submit 15 to 25 pages of their own comic in order to possibly be featured in an anthology, pitch their own artwork or story to TokyoPop, as well as win a variety of other cash and merchandise prizes. But that wasn't all. TokyoPop wanted to create its own manga series. This would be the first of its kind, made jointly between TokyoPop and Japanese publisher Shinshokan. It would combine the skills of a Japanese artist with writing from an American team, consisting of DJ Milky and the woman who would serve as the inspiration for the story itself, Courtney Love. Their powers combined created a story like no other, Princess Ai.
Let's start over. I'm Ai. Nice to meet you.
I can tell there's something special about you.
Princess Ai is a manga series, which consists of the original trilogy, which started in 2004 and ran through 2006, 2 collections of short stories created as collaborations between different manga artists, a comic book strip series, and 2 volumes that continue the original story, which were later published starting in 2008. Princess Ai follows the story of a princess from another planet.
It's that planet called Earth.
Who lands in Tokyo with no memory of where she's from or who she is, other than a heart-shaped box, which she knows she has to keep with her.
This box is the only connection back to my home.
Ai meets and falls in love with a boy named Kent.
Sky. I feel like I know him.
And ends up working at a strip/escort club.
Huh? This is a strip club?
But she does not have to strip.
My body is sacred, so it's a no-go.
Ai's voice and musical talents are so fantastic that she can simply perform in order to get paid by the club. In fact, she's so good that a record company employee at the club hears her singing,
What's your name, princess?
and gets her signed to a record deal. And the rest of the series from there is basically Ai experiencing how much she does not like the music industry, but does like her fans.
Was I performing? I didn't even notice.
And learns to use her singing for good, because she's also being hunted by a trio of harpies from the other planet.
No, it's just a matter of time, Ai.
Because, as it turns out, Ai is part angel.
You're one of a kind.
And her blood is so powerful that if humans come in contact with it, it will kill them.
I'll show you around the library.
Normal. And that is not even all the plot that happens in the original trilogy of the series.
All these books are just confusing things.
Which I've read because I weed. Princess Ai was originally published on a monthly basis in Shinshokan's monthly manga magazine, Wings, which had a mostly female readership. I can't find any information about how it was received in Japan or find any of the issues it was included in, but this wasn't a super popular manga magazine, so that isn't necessarily surprising. Those chapters were then consolidated into 3 volumes, which TokyoPop would publish between 2004 and 2006.
All these books.
Like I said, the manga was created with a team of collaborators. The character designs were actually created by Ai Yazawa, whose works Paradise Kiss and Nana featured lots of characters in punk and alternative style fashion, which would also appear in Princess Ai's general aesthetic.
A girl with ripped clothes.
Misaho Kujiraru would do the artwork for the series, and while I don't think she would ever publish any other works in the United States, in her little character bio that's included in the first volume of Princess Ai, she does say that her current obsession is dolls, specifically super dollfies. So just everything is connected. And then the story was written by DJ Milky and Courtney Love. Now, who are these two people?
Who the hell are you?
Starting with the easier of the two to talk about, DJ Milky has been credited as a writer, musician, and more. He had his own website, email newsletter, and even a MySpace page, which said that he lived in Tokyo and created funky-ass beats so you can move to the groove. DJ Milky did a majority of the writing for the series, even writing most of the song lyrics for the songs in the stories, which are all included in the backs of the volumes, and writing some poetry, which is featured in an art book for the series. In the second volume of Princess Ai, a section about the creation of the series describes that the initial story for Princess Ai began in the United States, where DJ Milky, while visiting TokyoPop's offices from Tokyo, plotted the rough outline. Which is an interesting way to put that, considering if you were the CEO of a company, you wouldn't really be just visiting your own office, right? Yeah, the CEO. DJ Milky is Stuart Levy, the founder and CEO of TokyoPop. Why he decided to become DJ Milky, I may never know.
Something doesn't feel right.
He had already taken on the name earlier to collaborate on various projects within TokyoPop, so I don't know if maybe he just felt like it sounded cooler than things being written by a guy named Stuart. It also could be that DJ Milky left a little bit more to the imagination about who this person was, and maybe made people feel that they were getting something that was authentically created by someone in Japan, our 100% authentic manga, rather than stuff that was just made from an American CEO. Who knows? Then, who is Courtney Love?
Your name, I.
Courtney Love is a musician and actress, well known for being a member of the band Hole, for her relationship with Kurt Cobain, and for, in general, being a bit of a character.
Well, I have mad episodes because I'm a bit mad.
Now, being someone who lives in Seattle and also spends time on the internet, I know the vast array of feelings that people have towards her and her character and actions, and I just want to say this video is not about that. But to give you some context, after a pretty traumatic childhood, Courtney would end up beginning her career in music and acting in the 80s, forming the band Hole in 1989, and throughout her career would deal with issues such as substance abuse.
A lot of people want to do drugs with me, which isn't going to happen.
As well as handling being in the public eye with her marriage to, and of course, the passing of Kurt Cobain. In the time leading up to the creation of Princess Ai, Courtney had been focusing more on her acting career, was involved in various legal situations, and by 2002, her band Hole had disbanded. In February of 2003, Courtney Love would be arrested at Heathrow Airport for disrupting a flight. In July of 2003, Princess Ai would be announced.
What's with this book? Wait.
An article from NME on the subject quotes Courtney as saying, "I have always loved the Japanese culture and the people. Princess Ai is a great character because she feels like my alter ego, but in a fantasy setting. I'm very excited to work with TokyoPop, a company that is truly innovative in its approach towards crossing creative boundaries." Stuart Levy then adds on, "We are very pleased that we could team up with one of the most influential rock stars of our generation, and certainly one of the most colorful personalities."
I'm a lightning rod. It happens.
Manga is just the start. Look for animation projects, merchandise, and other evolutions of Princess Ai in the near future. That same month, Courtney would also sign a record deal with Virgin Records for 3 solo albums. Now, how much was Courtney involved in the story herself? I'm not sure. There are a lot of elements which are very on the nose with her own life, such as her love interest being named Kent.
Sky Kent. Something about him feels so natural.
The I character having issues with the control that the record label is trying to have over her, which could be reflective of her opinion of the music industry or her own experiences working on her solo album.
This is going to be my last record for a while. I can't go through this again.
As well as the record company in the story trying to kill I as a way to control her legacy and profit off of her death. An article from USA Today about it states that early last year, Love approached TokyoPop with her idea for a story about a girl in search of her place in the world. She included some personal sketches of what the character might look like, according to TokyoPop's CEO Stuart Levy. And then Courtney would also post in 2021 on her Facebook page about how big of a fan she was of Nana, and that she really wanted to work with Ai Yazawa. So this story about her approaching TokyoPop could totally be true. Courtney even lived in Japan for a while as a teenager, working as a topless dancer, so that could be another point that's reflected from her own life in the series, and again, more evidence that maybe she was super gung-ho and really wanted to make this manga series happen, which would be really fun. But the only other issue is, at the same time, Courtney was really actively struggling with substance abuse. Her first solo album, American Sweetheart, that she was also working on at the same time, has been proclaimed to kind of be a failure by both her and other people involved due to her drug use.
A lot of heart went into it, and it got ruined because her and her friend were coked out.
In October of 2003, she would even be hospitalized and lose custody of her child due to a drug overdose. That fact, combined with those comments from Volume 2 of the series about how DJ Milky wrote a lot of the work himself, leads me to believe that Courtney might not have been super involved in the overall plot and writing of the series, and might have more so just been in some initial conversations and maybe like design planning about it. And that's not to say she couldn't have done the work or she hadn't done the work. That's just kind of the feeling that I get from it, which does make me a little bit uncomfortable considering the years that Princess Ai were being published. Courtney was going through some really public mental health and substance abuse crises. And TokyoPop was not. In fact, it seemed like Princess Ai was kind of thriving, with the first book topping the bestseller list for graphic novels with its release in July of 2004. TokyoPop was plastering Princess Ai wherever they could. So it's either a sign of the success of Princess Ai, or that they had the rights to the artwork and they were milking it.
That must be the money they use here. Now, how do I get my hands on that stuff?
A variety of pieces of merchandise would be created. A Princess Ai specific cosplay contest would be held at the 2005 San Diego Comic-Con. The first issues of the manga would be available on cell phones, and Princess Ai's first volume would also be the first manga that you could read on the Wii, thanks to a WiiWare application if you lived in Japan. But of course, out of everything made for Princess Ai, there's one specific product that interested me. A line of dolls created by Bleeding Edge Goths.
There's something important here for me to find. Who's that chick? Hook me up, man!
Bleeding Edge Goth dolls, or BeGoths dolls, were a series of dolls and toys created by Steve Varner. Varner works mostly in product development and sculpting, and it seems that he was a pretty early adapter to things like computerized 3D modeling, leading him to work for a huge range of companies in the toy industry, doing things such as sculpting prototypes for toys. As the story goes, in 2003, Varner's son Stefan suggested that he should make a fashion doll for goths, feeling that the cool subculture and unique styles of goths needed to be represented, and Steve saw the opportunity to fill a niche that had been overlooked in the toy industry. And they also have this really cool skull vortex on their website. I want a skull vortex on my website. BeGoths would have three main products: 12-inch dolls, 7-inch figures, and plushies. The dolls would be available online, as well as at a mix of different retailers, such as local goth shops, some Hot Topics, and apparently certain Universal Studios stores. Which is cool. Also, excuse me, I need to go make a account on gothicmatch.com. I need to meet Dark Ed. Where are you, Ed? Overall, 8 series of dolls and figures would be released, with many of the dolls having different color variations or limited edition versions, which would only be available at specific locations in certain countries for certain events or from the BeGoths online store itself. This character, Storm, is who I would kind of consider to be like the main character of the line. She was included with the first series of dolls, and pretty well every series after would include a Storm doll. The overall style of the dolls is very 2000s goth, and I don't know enough personally to be able to identify the different sub-styles of the dolls, but from my perspective, it does seem like they did a really good job of creating fashion dolls for goths. Like, they have really cool outfits and brushable hair. It's like a Barbie, but she has piercings. Is really cool. While the company would go strong for a few years, by 2009 they were slowing down. In May of 2010, an employee would post to the BeGoth forums, confirming that Series 9 would be put on hold, saying that they couldn't produce the dolls in a way that would be economically stable for them without being like way too expensive for their consumers, who were of course also feeling the economic pinch of the 2008 financial recession, which I remembered existed this time, guys. I'm not embarrassed about that at all. And that would kind of be the sad and slow end to the BeGoths line. The company wouldn't put out any more dolls until 2024. Just a couple of months ago, BeGoths announced that they would be doing a new line of dolls via Kickstarter. So if you are interested, you can maybe get some BeGoth dolls soon. They've also featured their first doll, which doesn't have just totally pale skin, which I will say is also very nice to see. So excited to see what comes from the future of BeGoths, but going back in time.
Never got a grip.
To coincide with the release of the second volume of Princess Ai, the line of dolls was announced, created as an exclusive license between TokyoPop and BeGoths. About the collaboration, Steve Varner commented that obtaining exclusive rights to produce the Princess Ai dolls and action figures is a great coup for Bleeding Edge. We're excited about the 6 different dolls and are thrilled about the public's reaction when we displayed them online, as well as that Princess Ai, the heroine of the book, is an amazing character. Since we're specialists in sculpting female figures, she was an excellent fit for us. I knew we had to make the Princess Ai doll when my 13-year-old daughter, Michelle, an avid fan of manga, insisted I create the Manga girl dolls after reading the first book and encouraged my first Princess Ai creation. Which is frankly so sweet. Like, what an adorable story. It seems like Varner just has a great relationship with his kids. I hope that that is the case. The Ai dolls would actually end up being the first and really only anime-style dolls that BeGoths would produce. Volume 2 of Princess Ai actually has an entire section where they break down the creation of the dolls, which is really neat. It covers how they're modeled and created, how the painting process works, and even talks about how complicated it is to do things like style the hair and make the clothing, which I really appreciate. Like, what a cool way to highlight one of your products. I also just like doll lore. I can't lie. For the Princess Ai line, there were 3 dolls and 3 figures made. Now, I'm going to focus only on the dolls, but you can kind of assume it is similar vibes for the figures that were created. So for the dolls, 3 looks were put out: Club Cupid, Borrowed Threads, and Evening. But of course, like all of the other dolls created by BeGoths, they would also create special chase editions, meaning these were special color variants or versions that collectors would have to, try and find. It's intense and cool. The Club Cupid look is named after the club that I worked at in the series.
Welcome to Club Cupid.
Her look includes a base pink and burgundy outfit, with a silver and black Comic-Con exclusive chase version also being released. The Borrowed Threads outfit is based off of an outfit that Ai creates for herself in the manga,
Just a few adjustments.
using clothing from Kent's gay roommate.
Kent, I picked out a few clothes to borrow.
Kent already left. Hey! Those are my clothes!
Yes, that is the plot.
Karu, Kent's roommate.
That is canon.
Great. pesky gay roommate.
This burgundy and pink outfit is the base version, but they also would have a silver and black outfit as well as a white and black version available. Lastly, the evening look is based off of this outfit, and there would be 3 versions of this release. The standard black and white version, a European exclusive black and red version, and then this gold version. I don't know why it was made, but it exists. These dolls have kind of a similar body setup to some older Barbies with like the twisting waist and kind of rubbery feeling legs that have some articulation in them. And honestly, I love these dolls. I do think that they look a little bit goofy, but I'm just so enamored by how people were trying to capture this style of artwork and take it from 2D to 3D. Like, is it exact in any way? Not exactly, but I do think that it looks pretty good for what it is. I think I have seen far worse anime dolls, and I don't know, these ones just have like a nice character to them, and they look really sweet. I think Bleeding Edge in general just was making some pretty nice quality dolls, and that shows. I also love how ridiculous these bangs are. Some of these poor dolls in and out of box, they're just like shooting off into the void. But I get it. Like, it's hard to figure out how you want to style those like anime spiky bangs. The base dolls retailed for $24.99, with some of the exclusive chase versions being $26.99, which is definitely not bad. With inflation today, that would be around $40. Which is hard to think about, but that isn't actually the worst when it comes to a collector doll. Like, the Monster High collector dolls that have been released recently range from $40 to $70, so it's pretty well on par with other collector dolls, and Barbies in around 2005 could range around $20 as well. I don't think it was a bad price. I think that's a pretty decent price. It seems like these dolls also had overall a positive reception. I can't find anything that would imply that they sold poorly, or at least poorly compared to any other Princess Eye products. I think the doll line was just another victim to the 2008 financial recession. Aren't we all victims?
So where do I go now?
Princess Eye is just such a weird thing. It looks like TokyoPop was trying so hard to make Princess Eye a thing, but despite their marketing efforts, it just seems like it wasn't interesting enough or different enough for consumers to really get into. And I also think it is possible that the Courtney Love connection could have ended up maybe putting some people off of it. To be fair, I don't know how many people knew it was about Courtney Love. I would be curious about the stats on that. Because in some ways it's obvious, and in some ways I'm like, you could hide it pretty easily. It is also just kind of hard to tell if it did, like, well in the grand scheme of things, because it seems like the issues sold well, but they were only releasing 1 issue a year, which, if you consider the fact that I can read one of these volumes in, like, half an hour, I don't think it would help it create too much organic interest. I'm killing them. I'm just not sure if that slow publishing rate would help it build organic interest. And of course, it's a pretty short series compared to some other manga at the time. That being said, after this original trilogy, TokyoPop was still trying really hard to keep audiences engaged in Princess Eye. On their YouTube channel, they would produce 8 different motion comics, as well as 4 music videos. And for those music videos, they would need music.
Looking back in shame.
So DJ Milky and some of his friends produced the songs from Princess Eye. Some of those would be released through iTunes CDs. 2 of these came out. I'm kind of obsessed with them. And they would feature songs from both Princess Eye as well as other TokyoPop collaborations and other songs from Japan that I'm like, I don't know. I question the ethics of how they ended up on the CD. I'm just gonna say, Stuart, what were you doing? A lot of this would be released around the time that what was supposed to be the second Princess Eye trilogy was starting, with the first book being published in 2008, continuing the story from the original trilogy, but the second wouldn't be published until 2010, and the third as of this day, has still not been published. The series really just slowly petered out. In 2007, it was confirmed that a half-animated, half-live-action movie was being worked on, with the anime studio Statelight doing animation for it, and DJ Milky directing the project. Hi, Stuart. While the movie would never come to be, I have a feeling that the Broken Leash music video is a pretty good, vibe for what it would have felt like. It features animated segments, which are honestly quite nice, and some live-action segments, which I can't decide how I feel about it. Just overall, I love it and I hate it. I do genuinely think if you had shown this to me in 5th grade, I would have ate it up. I would have loved it. It's very camp. Now I look at it and I go, this is so camp. But I feel like it was not done for the sake of camp. You know? But regardless of how well I was selling or her products were doing, it just didn't matter. Because you know what would happen? Say it with me. The 2008 financial crisis. The company would really struggle, and then with the closing of Borders in 2011, a bookstore chain which I personally purchased all of my TokyoPop manga from, the company couldn't survive, with TokyoPop ceasing business in the United States in 2011. And while TokyoPop has since started publishing manga in the US again, I have a feeling we'll never get the real end to Princess Ai. And honestly, I'm kind of okay with that. While I can be optimistic and hope that Courtney was really actively involved in this project and gave her blessing to the first trilogy, I'm really not sure if she was involved in the second. She isn't credited as a writer on it, just as a designer, and I just don't love that considering how much of the first series was really tied to her own life and perspective and personal experiences. So Stuart going on and creating more stories about this character without her just feels weird. It feels like, fanfic about real people. And then Stuart has a lot of money, so he's putting a lot of advertising budget into this fanfic to try and make other people like it. And I just don't like that vibe. I also think I just don't like Stuart. I don't like that DJ Milky thing he did. I think that's weird. I'm just picturing me as a child, giving my allowance money to a man role-playing as a Japanese DJ. And I don't like it. As I'm dressed as a Courtney, I'm basically bold of me to say as I'm dressed basically as Courtney Love. I can pretend this is a Princess Ai cosplay, but we know. While I'm complaining, another thing that I don't like is the cover art that they used. This is so weird. You guys have to hear me out. Here are what the covers in Japan looked like. And then here are what the covers in the US looked like. Why on earth were they using those covers in the US? The Japanese ones look so pretty. They own all the artwork, the same art. The drawings just don't look the same caliber as the first cover art. The first cover art, great. The art, this art, so good. But then the second, it's just but it's so weird because they have these sections where it's that could have been a sick cover. It upsets me greatly. I also want to highlight, though, I can tell that there was definitely a fandom or fans of Princess Ai because I found some really cool cosplay photos, including this group of Ai with the trio of harpies. And these harpy characters, some of them don't even appear until the final book. So this is dedication. These people are cosplaying from a series that just had 3 books. I love you all. You are so cool. And so with that, leads us to the end of the Princess Ai video. I feel so alone. Shout out to those of you who saw her in my Baljoina Da video and were like, is that Princess Ai? And I was just... This has been an interesting video to research. I really love the vibes of Princess Ai. I love the fashion. I do really like the artwork. The Courtney Love connection, it's interesting. It's a very interesting cultural thing, a thing of its time. It does kind of feel like somebody making a comic strip about Britney Spears during her hardest time of her life. And it's the ethics? I don't know. I want to know about the profits. Hey, TokyoPop, send me all of your files. How much did everybody make off of this? What else was Stewart involved in? That man was trying to direct a movie and write his own manga. He's living the weeb dream. Like, can I blame him? No, because that's what I wanted to do when I was a kid. It was pretend to be someone I wasn't. All right, thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope that you're having a great week, or as great as you can. We're never forgetting the 2008 financial recession ever again. Thank you all so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.